Hey guys, in this video we are going to quickly discuss the hooks in React with the example of the useState hook. So the app is already running, and as you can see there's nothing to render here. So what exactly are the hooks first? So before hooks were introduced in React, you had to do class based components. So you had to make your components using classes, and despite object oriented programming being very popular and almost a necessary concept that you need to have for software development, many people still prefer the functional side of programming over class based object oriented programming. And even if they know object oriented programming, they prefer this style of programming, the structured one. So hooks in React just let you implement components not only using basic functions but also update the states. For example, in the use state hook, so you can write component code using functions, and you can update the state of these components using the use state hook, for example. Okay, so let's take that example. So we are in the app.js. So first thing we are going to do is we're going to import React from React. So you need to import the React library, and then we are just going to declare a function, sorry, define this function. And in this function we are going to return some HTML, and we're going to return it, but we will wrap it first. Okay, so what we are going to return here is a simple heading. This heading came from app.js. Okay, so far so good. What does it say? Okay, anyway, let's ignore this. Okay, we have a problem. App not okay. So we made a mistake. We did not export this. So let's just export default app. Okay, so now the error is gone, and this heading came from app.js. But before we implement the use state hook, what we want to do is we want to have a component outside of the app.js and then make it communicate with app.js using the hooks and props. So create a directory named components, and inside this directory we'll have a component, let's just say form. Okay, task form.js, something like that. And here we also what we're going to do is let's write a function, and the function will be named after the component task form. And what this function will do, it will do nothing but return some HTML, and this HTML will be nothing but a heading. Let's just say this heading came from task form.js. Okay, so far so good. We have some errors. Okay, we have to export this as well. Export default task form. Okay, so far so good. And so it's not updating here, as you can see, because we have to first import this component. We'll import task form. Okay, so import task form from, then we will give the absolute path, which is the components directly and the task form. And after that we have to use JSX to render it here. So okay, there is some problem. Let's see if I can get, okay, so there's some extension here which is using HTML. Let's just write it manually. Task form. Okay, that's it. That's all we have to do. So what's the life cycle so far? First, app.js code will run by default. It will see the function app, and inside this function it will see this task form component. It will go to taskform.js and run this function task form, and render the component here. Okay, so as you can see here, this heading came from app.js. This heading came from taskform.js. So far so good. So now what we want to do? Now we want to use the hook. Okay, so which hook we are going to use? The use state. So what we are going to do is we're going to import the use state from React. Okay, and now we want to write some actual form HTML. So return a form. The action attribute, let's get rid of this for now. And inside this form, we will, inside the form, we want to have an input element so that the user can enter something. And inside this input, we will define the attributes. Okay, so first of all is obviously going to be the type text. Have a placeholder here. Let's name it enter your task. Okay, so enter your task here, placeholder. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have another attribute named value, but this is not going to be statically assigned. We will update this value using the hook, and we'll do that later. And we also want to have the on change event. So the on change event, inside this we will pass an anonymous function. So anonymous functions are nothing but functions with no name. So this is the syntax in JavaScript. Inside this anonymous function, we want to pass the event e, which is nothing but the you typing on the keyboard and stuff like that. So inside this anonymous function, we are going to call the hook now. But before we call the hook function, we want to declare it inside the task form function. So it's going to be of the type const, and now we declare an array. Inside this array, we will declare a variable task, okay, which is the state. This will represent the state of the value of this form, and then we will write a function set task. Okay, so this set task is another function which helps us set the state of the task, and this will be done using the useState hook. Okay, and inside this useState hook, we want to pass a empty string so that whenever the component loads, initially the state is basically empty. Okay, so there's some sort of error here. Actually, we must have one parent element. Okay, so we forgot to wrap it because whatever you return as a component must be one wrapped element. Okay, so so far so good. Now inside this anonymous function on change, you want to call the set task function and update it to nothing but e.target.value. So what this does is basically whenever you're typing something on the keyboard using the set task hook, okay, useState hook, and the set task function defined here, you're going to update this value. Okay, so you can see we have a form here. Okay, and whenever it types something, basically this hook is updating the value. That's all that's happening for now. And what we want to do here is we want to have a submit button as well. So let's have a button. Let's name it add task. We'll also handle that later when we communicate with the app.js, and let it have the type, let's just say submit. But we want to prevent the default behavior of the submit. So what we want to do is inside the form, we want to handle an event on submit. So on submit, by the way, this is JSX syntax. It might not be exactly like we do it in HTML. This is JSX. So handle submit. This is a function. So whenever you press the button submit, we have to handle submit, but we also have to define this function now. So we'll do it just before. Let's do it here after the state. Okay, before we return. So this syntax is we are going to use the anonymous function again, handle submit. So handle submit function, we are going to call the anonymous function. Whatever that function returns, we will give it to the handle submit, and whatever that returns will be done on submit. Okay, so an anonymous function we need again, and inside that we pass the event obviously. And okay, let's handle the submit. So what we want to do first is, since we pass the event in handle submit, we want to prevent the default. So e dot, you can call the prevent default method. Okay, so once you call this, the form will not submit the way it usually happens. It will submit the way we want to do it. So let's just console log what's happening here, the task. Okay, so console log the state here, and you can see we did not pass the task here. Okay, we did not pass this to the anonymous function. Since we are inside the task form function, you can access it inside this. And what we want to do is we want to set the task. We call the set task function of the useState hook again and set it to back to nothing when you submit. Okay. So let's just comment that for a while and you'll see. So now I'll say this is a task. Okay. And inside the console, you can see, where's the console? Here. So when I add the task, nothing's happening. Am I even in the console? So I just made a stupid mistake here. The button is not even inside the form. So that's why it was not calling the handle submit. So anyway, no problems. Let's just try again. And now we are here. So now you can see if I say this is my task and press enter, it console logs it. And not only it console logs it, it also clears it here. The placeholder is being cleared. And we are achieving this using these useState hook. Okay. So now, so far so good. What we want to do is we want to communicate with the app.js and make some things happen here. So what we want to do is whenever you press the submit button, we want to pass information to app.js and we want to display these tasks one by one, whatever we are entering. So for that, we are going to use the props. Okay. So let's just say after console logging it, we will call a function which is not even defined in this file. Okay, we'll call it, and inside this, what the hell? Inside this function, we'll pass this task. Okay, so since it's not defined here, we have to define it inside the app.js function file. So let's just do this, and on the task form component, define this function as a prop, and whatever it returns will be handled using another function, which is the handle add task function or something like that. Okay, now we have to use the hook again. So what's happening here? App.js gets called, the component is rendered, and when you submit using the props, we communicate with the app.js and give it a task. Okay, so now we have to handle it using the state. For that, what we are going to do is we are going to declare the app.js's own states, and we are going to do it. Let's declare it and name it, let's just say tasks now. Okay, in the task form.js we had tasks, here we have tasks, and what will be the function to update this state will be set tasks, plural, nothing new. And now we have the useState hook, but inside this we will pass an empty array, because now we are going to have to deal with arrays. We are going to have multiple tasks which we are going to handle, and we are going to do this using arrays. So now we have to define this handle task function. So what's going to happen when it communicates with app.js and gives it the task? So const handle add task, and anonymous function will return something, but in the anonymous function you must pass an argument formally, which is the new task. Okay. Okay. So now we are going to call the set tasks function, and inside this we are going to use a very powerful uh, operator, which is the spread operator. Okay, so 3 dots and then tasks. So and the new task. Okay, we're going to pass it here. So we have tasks as the state. Okay, inside that task we're going to store all the tasks. Okay, inside the handle task function we have set task function, which in which we pass an array, and inside that we already have tasks. But using the spread operator, whatever new task comes, it will be stored in tasks. Okay, the previous task, they will remain inside. Okay, it will be stored there. And let's just console log this as well. Console log list of tasks, and here again pass the uh, spread operator and pass this as an array. Okay, so that's it. And there is an error in the task form.js. It is the on add is not defined. So in order to get rid of this error, we have to pass this prop. We did not pass it properly. So now here this on add prop is only defined, but we have to pass it. And in order to pass it, you have to do nothing but here task form and there pass it. Okay, and props are enclosed within these curly brackets, so no problem there. Okay, so let's run it. Okay, so we have some very horrible errors here. Handle add task is not defined. Okay, so I think we just needed to reload the page. It was not synchronized. Anyway, let's just give it a task. This is first task. Okay, so now you can see on the right hand side we have a list. This is first task, and let's just say this is second task. Now this is second task. Okay, it's coming here, and using the spread operator, it's being stored the previous tasks in the array, so they're not getting lost. And this is third task. Okay, so everything's fine. And what, but we also want to update the UI now. Okay, we just don't want to console login, we want to update the UI. And every task has been stored already inside the tasks. Okay, this state on the app.js inside the task. So we just have to display it. So we will display it using an unordered list, and it's just ul. And what we want to do here, let's just switch to JavaScript for a while, and we will call a method on this tasks array, and it's the method map. And to this method map we are going to pass a function, an anonymous function. So we call a method on tasks. Inside this we pass an anonymous function as a argument, and inside this anonymous function further we're going to pass the task. Okay, so since we are using the map function, it will automatically treat the individual elements of the array. So whatever you write here, an index. So this is how the map function works. And let's call the anonymous function. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to have the list elements, and as the key we just want to have the key, the index, and inside this we want to just display the task. Okay, so I guess we have an error. Okay, so I just accidentally kept it inside the list tag. Now store it as a value here. So what we are doing, we will wrap it up, summarize it, but let's just run it for a while. Okay, so let's reload it. So now it's working perfectly. So this is the first task. Okay, so this is the first task. This console log came from and this is the second task, and then this is the third task. So not only are we handling the task edition in this.js, taskform.js, we are also updating the UI using hooks and the map function. So let's go through the life cycle, what's happening here. So when the app first loads, the app.js code will run and the function app will run. This will render some headings, but before anything, React will have a look at this component, go to taskform.js and you know run this function taskform, where we have declared a state, and it will set the state and return the HTML based on that state. But what will happen when you change the, you write something with the keyboard, the set task state will be called, and it will set the value to whatever value you're typing. But when you submit the form, uh, listen to very carefully, when you submit the form, inside the handle submit, we are just using the basic logging. We are also triggering a function. Which function are we triggering? Using the on add prop, we are triggering the handle add task function. Okay, so the on add prop is defined only in app.js. For the first time, it gets called when you submit the form, and when it gets called, it triggers the handle add tasks function. And what this function does, is using the own state of app.js. What state? The set task state, and the spread operator. It stores all the tasks. Okay, all the tasks passed by this task form .js. It stores them in this array tasks, and then we just map over this array and display it. Okay, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video.